It's tough to find funders because especially, wealthy, funders or industry funders, because you're basically saying, hey, pay me to investigate what you're doing. And, it's not a good sales pitch, right? It's like, give me money and I'll look into your business practices and what you're up to.
This is Small Press, Big Ideas, a podcast about the business of local news in the United States. I'm your host, Paul Gewertz. Small Press, Big Ideas is about the opportunities and challenges that local news publishers are facing for their businesses. I'll sit down and talk with journalists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and more in the local news industry to find out what's working, what isn't, and how the local news ecosystem can innovate and flourish in the 21st century. Okay. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Noah Glick. Noah is the executive editor of the Sierra Nevada Ally, I believe based out of Reno. Is that right? I know you're in Nevada.
Yeah, we're kind of, it's more of a regional outfit.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of based in I like to say it's the Sacramento Tahoe region. So we kind of cover everything from Sacramento, California to Carson City, Lake Tahoe, and Reno. So, but yeah, primarily focused on Northern Nevada, Reno, Carson City, that sort of thing.
Cool. Let's just say Northern Nevada. That works for me.
Perfect.
That helps me frame it out. And Sierra Nevada Ally is, like you said, regional outfit in Northern Nevada. So Noah, once again, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Yeah. I kind of always start the podcast the same, but just get a little baseline. Tell me about your background, your career, kind of like what's led up to this point, because it looks pretty interesting from what I've seen.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I took maybe the not traditional path into journalism. I started in advertising as a copywriter and did that for a while, and then just happened to move to the Reno area. I had some family who lived there. My brother and his family were there, and so I ended up moving there to be closer to family, and actually just started volunteering at the public radio station there because I'd always been interested in public radio. So, I just kind of worked my way up from there. Started as a volunteer, then was able to get a part-time job working as a kind of a general assignment reporter. They found out I had a journalism degree, so they put me to work pretty quickly. I did a lot of on-air hosting, and then eventually worked my way up to a full-time job as a science, kind of energy, environmental reporter, as well as a business and economy reporter for Northern Nevada. So we did a lot of work on like housing, affordable housing. We did a whole series when cannabis became legal in the state of Nevada, so that was an interesting time to be there. And then from there, I actually was able to be the inaugural sort of Nevada reporter for the Mountain West News Bureau, which is a multi-state collaboration of public radio stations throughout the Mountain West. So Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, Montana. I know I'm forgetting some. Colorado. There was, at the time when I was there, I think there were 6 stations. I think it's grown since then, but so I was the Nevada reporter, so reporting on regional issues, and then was offered a promotion with the local station, KUNR in Reno, to become the content director and the morning edition host. So I took that on and led a team of broadcasters, on-air hosts, as well as leading essentially the morning newscasts, the daily newscasts that we had every morning. I helped develop partnerships, collaborations with different sort of organizations in the region to really bring more local content on air. So did that for a while. And then in 2022, I had an opportunity to really just try something that I felt like was different and needed, not just in our region, but I think overall. So I was kind of interested in this idea of trying to get into the nonprofit independent sort of media space. So the Sierra Nevada Ally, I joined them in 2022, and really our goal is to try to fill that gap of context within the news. We do a lot of explainers, a lot of focus on civics, climate, and community issues. And so really joining the Ally for me was an opportunity to try to fill a void that I felt like was maybe missing, not just locally, but throughout the countries. I'm sure that you're coming across here, Paul, in your conversations, and we can get into that more later. But that's kind of my path, and I've been with the Ally ever since, and just really excited to see what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah. Like you said, I talked to a lot of people from all over the country, all different kinds of organizations, hyper local, regional, nonprofit, for profit, all of them. So super interesting. Could you talk? I don't know if I had this in my. First of all, could you tell me a little bit about the Sierra? You kind of touched on it a bit, the Sierra Nevada Ally. You said a focus on climate, community, civics, I believe you said.
Yes.
Like, can you just talk a little bit in terms of, what formats you're going out in? You said it's a nonprofit. I'm guessing you take, funding, like what's actually hitting the cash register, stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to give you a little rundown. And if you want to know more, happy to add more. I can ramble about the Ally for a while, so you have to forgive me. But no, I'm a sucker for alliteration. So we focus on the 3 C's, which is civics, climate, and community. And really, to me, that was a focus that I felt like was really needed. So, one thing that I learned during my time during the first Trump administration was I felt like it seemed to be a theme of a lack of understanding in how government works. And so that's one of the things I felt like was missing from the news coverage at the time was, hey, this thing is happening. This institution is being challenged, or this kind of law or this body is being, redone. Well, what does this body do? What's how do these things work? How do the levers of government work? So I felt like that was something I was very interested in trying to help solve. So we've really focused a lot of our content on explainers and adding context into what's going on in the news. So not just reporting on, some of the updates and what's happening, but also really adding the context and the understanding of government. So, with everything that's been going on with ICE in the last year, one of the things we did last year was we did a whole piece just about the history of ICE, how it was formed, what it does, what it's supposed to, basically why it was started. One of the things I always find interesting is that ICE is actually, or the movie Shrek is actually older than ICE. So if you think about it that way. But anyways, that's just one example. We do a lot of, explainers about like, well, what does this piece of legislation mean? Whether it's a statewide law, federal law, or a local measure. We just did a piece recently about a measure in Truckee, California, where voters voted to fund a new library. And so there's been a lot of conversations about like, well, what's the role of libraries moving forward in today's society? And so we got into like, not only what does that measure do? It's more than just building a new library. It's also, offering a space for emergencies when there's wildfires or any sort of, major power outages. The community has a permanent space in which they can go to. So those are just kind of a couple of examples off the top of my head of like how the civic side of things work with the Ally and what we're trying to accomplish. Obviously, climate is a major issue for us out in the West. Water is a significant issue, as Nevada is the driest state in the country. So water is obviously, paramount. It's going to continue to be an issue. Wildfires are an issue. Just trying to report on how energy, environmental issues kind of combine, and how climate change is changing daily life for residents here. And then the community aspect to me is really critical in what we do. We're really trying to build trust among the media and our community and the audience that we serve. And part of that means reaching out to them directly, hearing more from them, maybe doing some profiles of people in the community who are working to solve issues or who just might have interesting ideas. You can agree or disagree with their ideas or their solutions, but the idea is let's just meet some more people that we have in the community. One example I have that I'll give you on that is we literally just published this week an essay from our contributor who's based at Lake Tahoe talking about really just her thoughts about this terrible tragedy where 9 people died in an avalanche outside in the backcountry outside of Lake Tahoe, and really just this reminder of like, let's not be quick to judge. We don't have all the information. We don't know what's happening. And she's lived in Tahoe for 20 years. Everyone who lives there is very well connected. She says they're all 1 to 3 degrees of separation from each other. So when a tragedy like that strikes in a community like that, it affects everyone. And so it's this piece of just like, how do we come together as a community moving forward after tragedy? So these are the kinds of pieces that we work on, generally speaking. And then to answer your question about, where do we exist? Well, we have a website as kind of our main hub at sierranevadaally.org. We also have a podcast. I say a weekly podcast, but it's more weekly-ish. Sometimes, I'll miss a week here and there.
I know how it goes. That's what I spend most of my time doing. Yep.
Yeah, mostly weekly podcasts, I'd say. Last year was the first year we launched that, and we had, I think we had 30 episodes overall throughout the course of the year. So, and we took a break at the end of the year to focus on fundraising. But we have, the website, a podcast. We have 2 newsletters. So if you subscribe to our technically it's 1 newsletter, but we send out 2 different thematic newsletters. So we send out a civics newsletter, a climate focused newsletter. And then we are also on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. or not Twitter, I'm sorry, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like a couple things you said in there. It's funny. It's a theme. It's popped up. My friend Carol Wood on the show. Yeah, it'll be live by the time this one comes out. And she was talking about how you said, maybe educating or giving context for like how the government works. It's shocking if you hop on a Facebook group or something and see what people are ranting about on either side. There's only two sides these days. But and she was just saying, if people aren't civically engaged, that's when they just start parroting so it's easier for almost a local organization to do that. So people don't just start parroting the national narratives or whatever, and get some context on the local level.
One of the things on that I think is key, and one of the things we're actually working on this year is we launched a voter guide in 2024. And we're doing that again this year to just outline just the candidates, but also help add that context of like, well, not only here are the people running for this office, but what does this office do?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I saw, years ago, if you remember the argument over critical race theory and the anger that was coming around there, is you had people, especially in Reno, coming to school board meetings and just angrily, yelling at school board trustees, really causing a lot of tension, I will say. And the school board doesn't set curriculum. That's the Nevada Board of Education sets the curriculum for the state. But nobody's upset or making a big stink at that, on those races. And I don't think most people in the state know that like those are the people who actually are in charge of setting curriculum. And so to me, the Nevada Board of Education races are some of the most important and impactful races that happen. And so it's just that to me is just one example that comes up of like, if you're going to be angry about something, at least direct the anger toward the correct office or agency that's in charge of that.
Yeah, that's a good example. I also wanted to just comment. It's cool. Anybody who listens to the podcast regularly will know I always love calling out when people are in the Mountain West and talking about the issues here. I'm in Western Colorado. I'm a Colorado native. So I always refer to us as like the forgotten region. It's like this huge expanse of space, and like there's almost nobody here between where I am, Montana, out to Nevada, and everything in between and everything. So it's cool hearing, that kind of reporting. Like a lot of people I don't think about the water. It's a big issue here, all the way to you and everything.
The Colorado River.
It's gonna be a rough year. Look, I'm right by the San Juans by Telluride here. They're not looking super packed right now. And that's a separate issue, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you're following the Colorado River debates going on.
Oh, yeah.
People talk about, it's like you think, oh, well, the Mountain West doesn't have a ton of people. Well, the Colorado River serves 40 million people across the West. LA relies on the Colorado River. So, I'm a big believer in issues don't follow state borders.
Yeah.
And so you've got, what happens in Colorado will ultimately affect life here.
Yep. So anyway, I just wanted to call that out also. Very cool. Okay, so it's 2026. And I'm legally required to ask you about AI. That's just, I don't make this stuff up. But I do like getting different thoughts from different people all over the place. Because it's a very big question. It's a very, AI means a lot of stuff. I've said on here before, I think it's a branding issue. I think if it was just a different kind of software or different sections or whatever, not just AI for everything, plastered over everything. But I'm curious to hear your kind of overall thoughts and any tools you're using. And if so, what they are, how you're using it. Along those lines.
Yeah, I think AI in general is a pretty broad umbrella, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, not every AI is like ChatGPT. So, I think it's important to kind of set the stage there. I think the biggest, first of all, I want to say we have really been having conversations a lot lately. We don't have a formal AI policy published yet, but we're working on one for that very reason. We want to be transparent with our audience and let them know exactly where we stand on AI. As it stands, really the only AI tools that we're currently using right now are primarily transcription services. So we use Otter to help record and transcribe interviews. And, I've been using transcription services for the last 10 years, so it's not like this is anything earth-shattering. The only other thing I will say that we use, we will use AI like a ChatGPT type of thing. We actually use Perplexity is the AI platform that we use. We will use that to help us with research, but everything is vetted by a human, is fact-checked by a human, and every single piece of content that we have is written by a human. So we do not use AI to write or edit content, but it is a nice tool to be able to go to Perplexity and say like, hey, tell us more about the Antiquities Act, and then it'll
Right.
and it'll give you, a whole write-up with all kinds of sources, right? And then you can check. And so basically what I do is I do that as a starting point. So then I can go to those sources, look into those options, and basically it's a launch pad. So it's a starting point for us. We don't use it as a finishing line. But it does help just kind of get the ball rolling on stuff. And like I said, we do a lot of explainers, so it's a nice way to kind of get the ball rolling on there. But yeah, so we keep it light on AI, and we're working on a formal policy. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're a local, people-powered publication. And so to me, that means people are at the heart of everything we do. And so no AI is writing content for us.
Yeah. Basically, everybody says the same. Nobody's having it. I actually have had people on who are using it to write some stuff, but 98% of people are not. And everybody on the show brings up Otter in particular. Not even just transcription, Otter.ai. It's something I've learned from doing this podcast is journalists, newsrooms love it.
It seems to be Otter or Descript seem to be the main transcription services.
I love Otter. It's great for, everything seeps. If I have a call with somebody, a client or whatever, it just melts out of my brain. If I'm not, just don't have it on in the background.
All right, let's get that sponsorship money, Paul.
I know, right? I should. So back to another big part of the podcast is, sustainability and everything. You guys are a nonprofit. Could you talk about that? I saw on your website you actually have a list of some larger sponsors, but I'm guessing you also have small donors. Is that kind of the main sources of revenue kind of funding the project?
Yeah, we're primarily grant funded.
Okay.
Right now. And so, with that, of course, there's always risk and you're always hustling to try to find the next grant. But yeah, we're also funded by our donors and our readers and supporters. So yeah, we have people who donate $5, $10, whatever, up to, these large scale grants. We were lucky to, we're now in the second year of, we were selected as the only Nevada publication to receive the inaugural Press Forward grant to close gaps in news coverage. So they had announced, I think, as $100 million nationwide to support nonprofit journalistic projects like ours. And we were lucky to get a 2-year grant through Press Forward, which really helped us launch the podcast. It helped us launch the newsletter. It helped us bring on 2 staffers who we pay, who basically were contributors, and now they work, part-time for us as staff. So we're able to give them more of a consistent pay. So, grants are really, the lifeblood of the work that we do. Obviously, we also take support from readers, but that makes up a very small amount of the actual overall, revenue, the pie that we have. We're also actively working on securing some advertisers to our website. So we have a media kit. We're just at this point, just trying to identify businesses and organizations who not only would be interested in supporting us, but also align with our mission. We're not interested in just taking money from any organization. So that's obviously always a challenge too. I don't know how it is in Colorado or elsewhere, but Nevada, the philanthropic landscape is very challenging. There's not a ton of philanthropies out here. So the philanthropic side of things is really tough. A lot of the major kind of funders for a lot of things in the state is either coming from the gaming industry or the mining industry. And so
makes sense.
We've been hesitant to even kind of explore those options because we want to be able to feel as though we're able to just fully report freely on these industries, especially an extractive industry like mining, with all of our environmental reporting. We don't want there to feel as though there could be a conflict by taking mining money. So because we're somewhat critical of the mining industry in a lot of our reporting. So, there's it's kind of a mix, right? So trying to find the right funders, the right grants, and finding that local support. So with that said, we're ultimately looking for sustainability. I think everyone who's involved with the Ally would say that we're not paid, market value for the work that we do, and that this is more of a passion project and something that we all truly believe in. So we're all very mission driven here at the Ally, and we do it because we feel like we're adding value to the overall conversation and helping people better understand how to engage with their democracy with more vigor. So we do that, on a mission level. We all have other jobs that we have to do to kind of pay the bills, but we very much believe in what we're doing, and we're working on really securing more stable funding so that we can be sustainable and pay our people what they're worth.
Excellent. Cool stuff.
I hope that answers your question. Like, kind of went all over the place.
No, it did. It's interesting. It's a big question that I'm constantly thinking about and wrestling with and everything. And
I always
like
say,
I said,
yeah,
I have nonprofits and for-profits, and they're just, everybody needs to make money, even if you're a for-profit or nonprofit, you just have to. So it's interesting to hearing how people are thinking about it.
I always say it's tough to find funders, because especially, wealthy, funders or industry funders, because you're basically saying, hey, pay me to investigate what you're doing. And it's not a good sales pitch, right? It's like, give me money and I'll look into your business practices and what you're up to.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Can I ask everybody this one? Flash forward 5 years, the landscape is changing rapidly, like really rapidly lately, it feels like. Where do you see yourself and Sierra Nevada Ally? Whether what you hope for it, where you see the trend lines going, what do you think it's going to look like in like 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, like you said it, journalism is changing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Media is changing quickly. I'm very curious to see how AI is going to affect the journalism industry moving forward, whether it's, having AI anchors and podcast hosts, and, are more people going to be, I guess I'm curious to see if people are going to be less discerning of AI as AI becomes more sophisticated. It's already hard to spot fakes. So I'd be curious to see how AI is going to further impact that challenge that journalism is facing. And so, I think for us, we are really just focused on providing value to our readers. And that, to me, that is that people, that grassroots sort of people-powered connections that we're creating, where it's partnerships. So, I mean, at the end of the day, in 5 years, I hope we continue to exist and continue to serve a purpose, not to be cynical, but this is year 6 for us. And we've definitely had some major ups, and we've had some major downs, so there are definitely, we've had our moments where we're like, I don't know if we're going to make it. And then a grant comes in just at the right time to kind of save us. So, it's very uncertain in terms of, our long-term prospects financially, but mission-wise, we're always going to continue doing what we're doing. I think, we're hoping to lean more into social media and doing a better job of, doing some social first kind of content. But I also am pushing us to do more in the data side of things, data analysis, data collection. The model that I think, I'll give a shout out to another organization that I think has done it beautifully. It's KFF, if you're familiar with KFF and KFF Health News. I think their model is great because they're basically a journalistic outfit and think tank. So they're able to do all these sort of basically research papers that then other media pick up and use. And then they have their own team of reporters throughout the country that report on health news. And then those are then, syndicated throughout on different websites and platforms. If anyone listens to NPR, they do the Bill of the Month series with them. So I look at them as a model to emulate, because I think that it's incumbent on us in the journalism world to not just report what's happening, but also do some more research of our own to actually find those answers, right? Especially nowadays with federal agencies stripping data from their sites or pulling information, I think it's even more critical to find a source of trusted, verified information. So, that's one thing that I'm actually really working on this year is how can we start to dip our toes more into data and, basically like that research kind of think tank model in addition to our news reporting. And then ultimately, it all comes down to partnerships, like collaborations. We've been working on some partnerships with the local university. We have a good pipeline of journalism school students who come and work with us and provide content, while I can provide some guidance and editing help and get their clips and bylines up. But also, like, is there a way to get more academics or professors or other folks who have expertise to share, but maybe don't have the media training or know how to tell a good story, right? So we're working on a lot of these kind of partnerships and other ideas. We're big on collaboration. So everything on our site is freely available. Anyone can use it. It's all part of the Creative Commons. So anyone who's listening right now, if you're interested and there's a story on Sierra Nevada Ally's website that we produced, that you're interested in, you're welcome to use it. And just give us attribution. So, I think to answer your question, though, I think really the next 5 years, it's going to come down to, our success ultimately comes down to the success of finding these partnerships, collaborations that we can build together, these coalitions, so that we can not only work on projects together, but also secure funding for these coalitions, because I think that's ultimately going to be the path forward as well. So, instead of having a funder fund our outlet, could they fund a Nevada, a Nevada coalition of news outlets, and we all split the pie and we work together on things, right? So I think, you're going to probably see some consolidation over the next few years. And I hesitate to make any predictions on, types of media, because 5 years ago, I don't think I would have guessed TikTok would be as relevant as it is these days. So, I'm sure there's going to be the next thing coming around in 5 years that we don't even know about that we'll have to figure out as well. So I hope that answers your question. I think it's, it's just a lot of uncertainty, and, I have no idea.
Yeah. Frankly. And to be fair, the whole world is kind of like that right now. A lot of stuff's changing and everything. So obviously journalism too. No, that's great. That's everything I had. Where can people find you? What do you want me to link to in the show notes or promote or anything like that?
Yeah, check out our website, sierranevadaally.org. You can find our podcasts on all the different podcast platforms. Just search for Sierra Nevada Ally. Our show is called Ally Audio, so you'll be able to find it that way, but it's easier if you just search Sierra Nevada Ally. But yeah, go to our website. Everything we do is up there. We have an option to subscribe to our newsletter. You can listen to our podcast episodes there. You can find us on social there. But ultimately, whether it's the Sierra Nevada Ally or a local publication where you live, just support your local journalists. Like, that's ultimately the plug. We would love to have your financial support, but if you live in Delaware and we're not providing value to you in Dover, then support the local publication there, right? And I think that's ultimately what it is. Just check us out, and feel free to reach out anytime if you have any ideas or tips or criticisms. We're here to serve the community.
Cool. Awesome. I'll link to all that stuff. And thanks again. Awesome. Noah, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day, man.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Appreciate the time.
Yep. Thank you for listening to Small Press Big Ideas. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to help the show, the best thing you can do is to tell a friend or colleague and just take a few minutes to leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. It only takes a minute out of your day, but it really does help the podcast grow and reach more ears. Check back for new episodes every Monday.